So basically, what I think is so interesting about, hi guys, Michelle says, I feel like boundaries are one of those things I like hearing other people talk about because it makes me realize where I do and don't have boundaries. It's so true. Hi, Milana. Thank you for being here. You guys are here. Say hi. So appreciate y'all being here. Hi, Shonda. Welcome, welcome. Michelle, that's so funny because it's so true, right? Where like you hear someone be like, oh, that's a boundary for me. And you're like, huh, interesting. I could do that, right? I think the thing that's so hard in this space we're in is that, you know, most of us got into this job, this work, these businesses because we care so much. And it's also the reason it can be so hard to hold boundaries. And so I think it's just like this really interesting dynamic that so many the helper personalities and professions get caught in, where like they really started this whole thing to serve, but then it gets really murky what that looks like and how can they do that and all of that, right? I also think that we can get really stuck in equating like how much we serve our clients to what their results going to be, right? Like that can feel like it's the same thing. Like the more I serve, the better their result will be, right? And this is coming from someone who does one-on-one, serves her clients at a really high level, and I don't even believe that's true. Like I just really like and value one-on-one. I don't think that it's like the only reason they get great results is because I like serve at like a certain amount, right? And so I think that's really important to just kind of like level set on there, which is that it doesn't always look like more equals more, right? And I mean, I think that's such a lesson in so many things in business, that more doesn't always equal more, right? Hey, Randa, thank you for being here. Definitely business lesson in general, like same with content, same with marketing, all the things, like more is not always more. And same with serving your clients. Like sometimes like we can really take that too far. So one of the things that I really, really focus on there is that like you bending boundaries doesn't get you what you think it will typically, right? Helpful to evaluate. Oh, that's a great question, Michelle. I'm going to answer that in just a second. But you bending boundaries typically doesn't get you what you think it will. It's kind of like the first point I want to make here. So like so many of my clients will be like, well, I really want this client to be happy, so I'm doing X, or I really, really want her to get this result, so I'm doing Y, right? And we're like doing it because we want the best for our people. Like that's not a bad thing, but it usually doesn't get us what we think it's gonna get us. And it's almost this way, and I can definitely speak to this as a control freak. It almost feels like a way we're trying to control the perception, the feeling, the experience, the whatever, right? So we really keep bending our boundaries, and ultimately what we're kind of doing is trying to be like, I'm going to control the whole situation, what results someone gets, how happy they are with me, all of this kind of stuff, right? And usually that doesn't get you what you think it's going to get you, for a few reasons. One, it becomes an expectation, not an over delivery at that point, right? So if I'm like showing up like this because, I think you're going to be more happy with me, it doesn't really work, because then it just becomes the norm. Does that make sense? Milana says, this is so timely. I've been really working on boundaries with my time in sessions, and also with my business model, been doing one-on-one for group program prices, switching that to, ooh, amazing. Let's definitely talk more about that. So good. Oh, thank you about my eyelashes. So they are, they're like fake lashes that you put on, but they come in like different little pieces. And you put them on like under your eye, which was significantly easier for me. I find it very hard to go over. And they stay on for freaking 5 days. Like I've had these on since Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yeah, so I could still wear them for like 2 days. Highly recommend. I think what are they called? They're called Flutter Habit. Big fan so far. So far. One little side is bugging me, but I think that was my own application error. So anyway, highly recommend. But right, like we usually think like, oh, I'll just like over deliver and then this client will be extra happy. But what really happens is this client just thinks that's normal now. Right? Like, or I'll over deliver and make sure that they get these results, but you can't control anyone's results no matter what you do. And so no matter how much you flex the boundary, it's not getting you more of what you want, right? So I think that's just really important to remember. Like, that's something I challenge my clients on a lot, is to be like, when is the last time that you completely flexing a boundary actually worked out really, really well? You know? And it's funny because like when most of us look back at that, we're like, oh, it really didn't. Like one of my clients, I remember she was kind of flexing her boundary a lot with one of her clients. And she was like, well, you know, she's a referral and I just really want her to be happy and da 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 da. And then this client came back to her and was like, oh, I'm unhappy about all of these things. And she was like, wait, what the fuck? Like, I've totally overgiven, I've totally flexed my boundary, and she's still not happy with these things. But so what was really helpful for her to see is like, this had nothing to do with anything. Like, this client was always going to be unhappy. And so I think that that's just a really good measure to look at, whereas like when have I flexed my boundaries that it's typically worked out really well? Where have I flexed my boundaries that it's really gotten me the exact thing I wanted? Very infrequently. Hi Shonda, I'm back. I'm so sorry about that. I don't know. It told me it couldn't show my video, so whatever. The next thing I would say around that is, not only is it really harmful for you to keep flexing those boundaries, but then it really becomes that expectation and you're going to have to keep doing it. So once you flex a boundary with a client in a big way, it's really, really hard to not keep doing that, unless you want to have this kind of like big level set combo. And of course you can, like, I'm not saying you can't, but I think that it's so much harder is kind of the point I want to make there. And so one thing I always really recommend to clients there is to tell their clients when they're over delivering, right? So say you are gonna flex a boundary for something, like say one of your clients is having like this big emergency happening and they say, hey, like, I know we never do this, but can we jump on the phone really quick, right? You can say, yes, of course, I would be happy to do that for you this one time. Yes, of course, I would be so happy to over deliver for you in that way. Yes, of course, it would be such a gift to be able to over deliver and serve you. But like, say that you're over delivering, you know what I mean? Like, that's when it doesn't become an expectation. It becomes like, hey, I'm happy to, and like, this is what's actually going on here. And I think that's just a really beautiful reminder for the client to also extra appreciate that. And I'm not saying we're doing it so that they have to appreciate that, but it's our job to lead the container. So sometimes our clients don't even know what over delivery or not over delivery is, which is why it becomes an expectation. So when you can make that really clear to them, that's such a gift to them too. Michelle says, that's the hardest lesson to learn. I've had to learn this with both employees and students in my 9 to 5. Sometimes you can't change the thing and it's frustrating as all get out, but not worth compromising yourself over. Exactly. Hey Sarah, she said Facebook is been doing this for the past couple of days. I've experienced this and seen lots of others with issues with their lives. So annoying. Oh, that is so annoying. Well, I'm glad to know that. Thank you for telling me that. Yeah, Alicia says flexing a boundary becomes an expectation. Exactly. And especially for a lot of us that are working with clients long term, you know, months at a time, we really want to keep that in mind. Like, everything you do is setting an expectation, right? And so if you're, and this is what a lot of people find themselves stuck in too, is like at the beginning of a thing with clients, they really want to over deliver. But like, if you have 6 months to go and you start by setting the stage that like you're going to flex your boundaries and then expect them not to, that's going to be really, really, really hard to come back from. But you also get to decide what's an important boundary for you and what isn't. So that's something too, like you might be more flexible in some areas than others, and you might be okay if it goes the whole 6 months being that flexible, and that's totally fine. But just know that the things you're doing are going to be impactful. So anytime I'm doing something like that, I'm saying to myself, like, am I cool with this for the next 6 months. And a lot of my clients resign. So it's really like, am I cool with this for the next, 2 years or whatever, right? And like really being willing to ask yourself that and go there, because sometimes it feels like I'll just do it in this moment to make them happy. And that's so tempting. But when you can say to yourself, like, hey, am I willing to continue to do this for the foreseeable future? That becomes a good filter question, right? Michelle says, speaking of boundaries, we just got a derby party invite for 2022, and I'm setting that boundary and saving the date. Oh my gosh, that's hysterical. Good for them. Way to plan in advance. Also, way to set that boundary. The other thing I would say here too, and I think this is like just a funny little thing that's important to say, which is that, your clients want you to honor yourself, right? Most clients do not, or people in general, right? Like most people do not like relish in the idea of some other human like sacrificing all their boundaries and completely burning themselves out so that they can like answer their question or something like that, right? So I feel like keeping that in mind, like that's something I remind myself often, is like my clients want me to take care of me. Like my clients want me to set boundaries. My clients want me to come to our sessions as like the best version of me is really important. Because if I like subconsciously, a lot of us can get in the habit of thinking, oh, they want me to flex that boundary. Oh, they really want me to answer at all hours. Oh, they really want, whatever, me to over deliver in this way. Like most of the time that's not true. Like even think about yourself as a client. Like if you knew like your coach or service provider was staying up till 11 o'clock to answer your thing, or if they were like canceling on something they were going to do with their family so they could be on a call with you at that time, would that feel good? No, probably not, right? And so really remembering that is so important. Like remembering like I am not a client who wants the people I'm working for to flex their boundaries. Like I can really take the assumption that my clients don't want that for me either, right? Alicia says, genius, asking yourself, would I be happy doing this for the next year? Yeah, totally. Hey, Amanda. Yes, my clients want me to take care of myself. I'm so glad you made it live. Thank you for being here. Michelle says, I can't imagine serving my clients from a completely burned out state. My bigger struggle is setting boundaries around social media. Yeah. And not working too much in the business from an I'm not doing enough place. Ooh, let's talk about that. But yes, my clients want me to take care of myself is huge. Like I feel like the number one compliment I get so often from clients is like, I so appreciate how you always come to our calls really present and you feel really engaged and all of that stuff. And so what I take that to mean is like, I want you to take care of yourself and set boundaries because I dig how this feels. So, think about that with your clients too. Like I'm sure that so much of the stuff that they love and appreciate is when you are able to be present for them or do great work or whatever, that is, or like, have enough boundaries to like do a task well. That's something we talk about on our team where it's like, nothing is an emergency, so that you have plenty of time and space to like do a task with attention to detail and well, because nothing is an emergency. We want you to not sacrifice your boundaries for any of it, that kind of thing. So just think about that with your own clients. Like they really probably want that for you too. So in terms of boundaries with doing more in your business, I think that, again, I feel like when we're flexing our boundaries, it's so interesting, right? But it's usually because we want to feel a certain thing, right? So like I'm flexing my boundaries with social because I want to feel like I'm doing way more in my business, or I'm flexing my boundaries with this client because I want to feel like I'm over delivering, so she has to be happy with me. Like when we're flexing it, there's usually this urgent kind of feeling that we want to create behind it. So when it's like that I'm not doing enough and we want to flex on that, what we're really looking for, right, is that feeling of enoughness. When we want to like over deliver so the client can just be happy and we feel this like internal pressure around it, what we're really looking for is knowing we're amazing at what we do, So with the boundary thing, it's so helpful sometimes to gauge what's happening behind it. What I always talk about is like the thing under the thing, right? Gauge what's happening behind it and see how else we can meet that need, right? Because normally the, what's the word, intensity, urgency behind it is driving us to try to do something to get a quick need met. I just really need to make this client happy, so I'm gonna, right? Versus like, I need to feel really good and in integrity with how I'm serving this person. I just need to like get more done in the business so I can feel okay. I just need to feel like I'm enough, right? Those are really helpful to see, because 9 times out of 10, that's why we're flexing our boundaries. If you've listened to this season of Literally, you're familiar with this conversation, but Allie has really struggled with boundaries and people pleasing, because what she really wants is everyone to be happy. And what we've worked on so much is like, how do I trust myself? How do I internally feel like I'm doing enough? How do I internally feel like, you know, I'm making the right choices and doing the right things in my business, right? So pay attention to what's happening behind that, because it will usually guide you into what you actually need, which is, you know, 9.9 times out of 10 not to flex the boundary, right? Alicia said, I never thought of that. My clients want me to honor myself. I see I have a limiting belief that corporate clients don't care as much about that, but they are humans too. Alicia, that totally makes sense. So I get what you're saying when it's like harder when it's like a corporation, but I do think you can relate it to that piece I was saying about like, they want you to be able to do really great work and be really present for it. And so that might be it, right? Like they don't want you doing work like, I'm just making this up, I don't know if this is true for you, but like at your kid's soccer game on your phone because you feel so much pressure to do it right then, where you might like not be able to be present and pay attention. I have no idea if you have kids, but just as an example, right? Like almost taking it into like, well, they want me to be in a place to be able to be really focused, to be well rested, that kind of thing, right? I think at least that can help in terms of like making that connection of like why they actually want you to take care of you. Yeah, Michelle, exactly. It feels like urgency, totally. So really just pay attention to like, what am I thinking it's gonna get? The other thing I will talk about here in terms of like how this creates results for your clients is because like, what are we doing with so many of our clients is we're trying to show them what's possible, right? And so if I don't show my clients that it's possible to not respond within 5 minutes, or it's possible to take that time when you need it, or it's possible to, you know, take care of yourself so that you can show up in a way that feels really good, then I'm really missing a lot of the point there, right? I feel like so much of coaching and mentoring is also modeling, right? And so, you know, looking at it through the modeling lens, like one of the things I am so hardcore about and harp on clients with is like no notifications on, like none of those things. Like I'm like super like, don't have Basecamp on your phone, things like that. And recently we had a situation where, well, it wasn't that recent, it was like a few months ago, but I had to put Basecamp on my phone because I was having an issue with my computer or whatever. And then I kind of got used to having it there. I was like, oh, this is not me modeling. Like, this is not me standing behind my boundaries and what I say. And so I like, the second I realized that, I like took it right off, because that is how I can like really be like of value to my clients, is to kind of be the one modeling some of that too. And so when I was kind of like flexing on that boundary, like that was what brought me back from it, to be like, but this isn't modeling like what you say, right? Then it's really hard for me to get on friggin' the podcast and tell Allie why she has to like turn notifications off and shit when I'm like, oh, but like Basecamp's on my phone, right? So the urgency is such an important point, though, I want to come back to as well, Michelle, because I feel like what Basecamp on your phone does, and this is like an urgent evaluation point for everyone in their business, whatever your version of Basecamp is. Like Basecamp is where I communicate with my clients, so yours might be like email or Box or phone or Slack or whatever. Not phone, you would have to have a phone on your phone, but you get what I'm saying. What I can't. What that does is just create urgency, right? So if I have it on my phone, the message I'm sending myself is like, something is very urgent and important and you must handle it, right? Versus like, nothing's urgent. Like, I know when I check Basecamp, I know what my response windows are. I'm always within those. That's good. Anytime we kind of put that intensity and urgency behind something, must check, must look, must answer, right? The signal we're actually sending to our brain is, this is unsafe and there is a problem, right? So if every time you're setting up this dynamic with clients and work, this is unsafe and this is a problem, you're gonna just feel super crappy, right? If you hold that boundary of like, I respond within this time and this time, or like I'm, only check Slack on my computer or whatever that is, it gets so much easier because you're honoring your own boundaries. So that urgency and intensity gets removed. You're meeting your own emotional needs more, so that urgency and intensity to check, to fix, to whatever comes down. And that's really freaking important. And that's how you can help your clients get better results again, because you're not showing up from that, oh my God, must check, must answer, must make okay. You're showing up from that, like, what do they need to hear from me? Like, what do they actually need reflected? What, in-depth thought can I really give them here versus like, must answer on my phone so that everything is okay. Hugely different, right? Yes, coaching is modeling. Exactly, Amanda. Michelle says, it's hard for me sometimes to find that balance between convenience to me, like having an app on my phone, and setting those boundaries so I don't feel like I have to respond to things right away. Yeah. I mean, listen, I think I totally get that. Like, in some ways my life would feel a little more convenient if I had that. I've just never personally seen that work out really well. Unless you're just really, really good at being like, I'm only going to check it on my phone when I can fully respond. I think that could be okay. Most of us just aren't like that. Is kind of the problem there. You know what I mean? But I think like, if it's just significantly easier to like for the app function or to use that, like I get it, right? But yeah, I think that for me, like the not having the intensity outweighs the convenience. But I think you just, different lines there for different people for sure. This is unsafe and this is a problem. Literally never thought about it that way before, but that makes so much sense. Right, exactly, right? Like, it feels like every client message has something wrong is almost like the message you're sending your brain and body, versus like, I love client messages, right? Like, I can't wait to check them when I get on my computer, instead of like, I'm checking them all the time. I actually said this in the podcast episode that I recorded, but a long time ago, prior to this last time I mentioned where I had to put it on my phone, but a long time ago, in my business, when I had it on my phone and had never really thought otherwise, I remember that I was driving somewhere. It was kind of far away. And like every time I stopped at a stoplight, I was like checking it on my phone, like Basecamp. And I was like, whoa, like this has gotten so unhealthy, and like nothing is wrong. Do you know what I mean? But like my brain was like, check it. Like, and I was just wanting to feel like safe and okay. And so I really had to do like some internal reckoning there. I immediately took it off my phone when I realized that, and hadn't had it back on since, besides what I was saying about a few months ago. And it was so important for me to just have that moment where I was like, oh shit, like this is not good. This is like me sending the exact wrong message. And so like now just feeling like, well, I know I'm going to check it at these times, and I'm on my computer a lot. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like, even like for other things, like I'm like doing like online shopping and like, emailing family and like all of those things. So it's not like I don't have quick access to it. Like I can see it all the time, but it really does impact me a lot more when I feel that urgency and pressure behind it, versus when it feels like an excitement, a gift to get to open it and look at it. And then the other thing is like, I really feel like that's how I get my clients better results. So I just want to speak to that for a second. Alicia says, wow, powerful. Urgency is telling your brain this is unsafe. So helpful to reframe this, creating safety as an inside job. Totally. Such a thing, right? Yes, exactly. Awesome. So the thing about that is like, I really feel like that's where I'm able to help my clients get better results, because I can feel really present in responding to them. And I really feel like as coaches and service providers, our presence is like one of the single most important factors. If I'm just trying to make myself feel better and not that urgency, like the quality of the response is going to be vastly different than the quality of the response if like I don't feel like it's an emergency and I'm like super excited to check this message and I have the presence to answer it. So I think that's really important too. Like, I know I'm gonna ask way better coaching questions, give way better feedback when I'm coming from that place of let me sit down and be really present for this conversation versus the urgency and reactivity of what, like seeing something at a fucking stoplight and what, trying to like type a quick message as quickly as possible to just like not have it be a thing, right? It's so silly when you think about it that way. And so if you can start tying in your brain boundaries and space for yourself and care for yourself to more presence and more results for clients, that becomes a really positive connection to make in your brain. My clients want me to have boundaries. My clients want me to take care of myself. My clients get better results when I have boundaries. My clients get better results when I can be really present for the answers I'm giving to them. Those little beliefs built up over time can be an absolute game changer in terms of like how you feel, how you interact with your business. When it feels like the opposite, right? When it feels like my clients would prefer it if I answered them 24/7. My clients would get better results if I answered them 24/7. Like, you are on a really slippery slope there, right? When you can find those reframes of like, this is actually what gets them better results. This is actually when I'm the most present coach. Like, I've even seen it in myself where like if I look at something on my phone, the quick answer I would give is totally different than the answer I give 5 hours later when I'm like present and can sit down and really like give it thought and context there. So I'm not trying to say like now you need to be chained to your desk to answer clients or any of those things. I'm just saying wait until you're at a place where it doesn't feel like you're flexing all these boundaries, like checking it 24/7. Do it when you really can. And then same thing with like honoring client requests. Say yes when it feels really good. Don't say yes because you think you have to, right? Thank you, Amanda. Patricia said I had to do that with Instagram. In the beginning, I felt I would look so much into it. So I just took it off and then set a time to go and log in from a computer. 100%. One of my clients, Patricia, I think this is so smart. She's so good at this, but she only will put Instagram on her phone during business hours. So every morning when she like sits down to work, she'll download the app because she prefers to use it on her phone. And every night when she's done working, she takes the app off her phone and deletes it. And I feel like that's just such a rock solid boundary for her. Like, that she's like, this is what I'm a yes to and this is what I'm a no to, right? And just remembering that you can be a yes and no to different things with your clients and have that be okay. But again, I would go back to asking the question of like, if I say yes to this, is this something I want to keep saying yes to? Sometimes it might be, yeah, absolutely. Like, I can think of stuff I've said yes to for clients that I did with the intention of being like, and I would be okay continuing to say yes to this for a long time. And I can think of stuff where I felt like, well, I can say yes this one time, but like that's not going to be a yes ongoingly. Like, this is just an over delivery. Are we clear there? And then I can think of stuff where it's like, it doesn't feel good at all for that to be a yes. And like, here's the boundary. And what I feel like is really helpful there is the more I do that, or the more that I like actually ask myself that question, the easier it is to see the evidence of that build up, that's usually well received. I think that a lot of times why we don't do this is we're just out of practice with it. In corporate, it's almost like bad to have boundaries. And so I think we can get out of practice with it and let that spill into our own business. But really good to just like find that balance for yourself. And remember, all of those are options. Like, you can say no to a client and still have it be okay. I've said no to a lot of different client things. We still have a great relationship and it's still totally fine. You can say yes, but not again. You can say yes because like I would be fine doing this for a while. But make sure you know that yes and like where it's coming from and that you took time to think about it. So another tip on this that I'll give is that what I usually recommend for most of my clients and what I try to do myself is when someone is asking you to flex a boundary to not respond immediately. So sometimes what will happen is someone will be like, oh, hey, would you mind doing da-da-da-da? Like whatever that is, right? And if you're responding in the moment, most of us are going to find ourselves being like, well, sure, right? What I really like to do is kind of say like, I totally hear your question. I don't feel like I have the bandwidth to think about it in this one moment, but I am going to think about that and I'm going to get back to you soon, right? Or, hey, totally hear your question. Like, let me sit with that and I'm going to respond to you tomorrow morning, right? It's the urgency, right? That's such a theme throughout this, right? It's the urgency that kicks your butt there because you're trying to respond so quickly. And so that's also just a good one, especially if you're someone that has a little bit of a harder time setting a boundary. Just giving yourself the time usually lets you do that. And also if you're not someone who's really practiced at checking in with yourself, like what feels like a yes and what feels like a no here, just buy yourself time. Like that is one of the biggest gifts you can give yourself. Michelle says, I've recently started asking folks to think about their requests and that's made a huge difference for me. I used to feel pressured to decide right away, but that's not how I make my best decisions. Exactly. I just need to think about it, right? I haven't figured out how to remove IG from my phone like this because when you remove it, it deletes your real drafts. Oh yeah, that's a whole thing. Yeah, that's true. It does do that. I don't have a solution to that one. I wonder if you could like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about that one, but that's a good point. PSA, if you delete your Instagram, no one will delete your real drafts. But yes, you can just think about it. I think that the last little point that I'll kind of make here is that ultimately, like the things that I feel like provide the best results for clients are my presence, like I was talking about before. I think a really accurate reflection, which requires presence, right? Do you know what I mean? Like really being able to really reflect what you see. And that also leads to the third thing, which is transparency. So if you have followed me for any length of time, you know, like one of my rules as coach is like, I never think something that I'm not willing to say, right? And so I really try to look at boundaries as part of that transparency as well. So like, I don't want to be saying yes to something that in the back of my head, I'm really pissed that I'm saying yes to. I want to be able to bring that transparency to our relationship, right? And that could be true whether you're a service provider of any type. Like that transparency with your clients is so helpful. When you're trying to act a certain way to make them feel a certain way or to get a certain thing or whatever, like we're just losing that dynamic, right? When you feel like I can transparently say yes or no to someone, it's okay if they ask, it's okay if I say no. That's a huge thing I go into on the podcast episode that's coming up, so I'll skip that here. But like someone can ask and they're like totally welcome to ask, and then I am totally welcome to say yes or no. Like my clients can ask for anything they want. I'm not going to say yes to all of it, right? But they are welcome to ask. But I really try to look at it as like a transparency exercise. So that's super helpful too. Like again, it's like just creating these thoughts that are more helpful. Like my clients want me to take care of myself was one I said earlier. Another one is like the most transparent thing I can do is set a boundary. The most transparent thing I can do is tell them where I stand, right? And for me, I feel like that just deepens your relationship, right? When they feel like they can ask for something and you'll truly say, yes, this feels good to me, or no, it doesn't. Like that is such a trust builder. I really have that with my COO, Megan, as well. Like I really trust that if I ask her to do something that's like really outside of her boundaries or whatever, she will just tell me. And it is such a beautiful gift for her to give me, right? Instead of me trying to guess. Like, I think she would want to do that. I don't think she would want to. Like, it's such a gift that I know she'll be that transparent with me. So like having that gift to clients, I think is really, really important. Something I always tell my clients when we first start working together is like, I have great boundaries. I will hold them. You don't have to worry about holding mine for me. right? And think about what a gift that is to give someone else. Like, you don't have to worry about ending sessions on time. I'll make sure I do that. You can if that feels good, right? But like, I can hold that. Like, you don't have to worry if I'm answering you at 8 o'clock at night. Like, assume I'm doing it because I want to. Like, you don't have to hold that boundary for me. And so I think that's a really good way to think about it. It's like a transparent gift we can give someone else. Like, isn't it beautiful that your client doesn't have to be like, oh, does she not? Does that feel good to her? Does that feel bad to her? Like, no, none of us want that, right? So I hope that this was almost just like a little mini like like what's the word, like almost little mini affirmations here of like, here is why this is safe, here is why this is okay, here is a container or a thought my brain can kind of latch onto that makes me feel better doing this. Here's why it actually helps me get better results for my clients, do a better job, all of that kind of stuff, because I really, really do believe that's true. Michelle said, going down the human design rabbit hole has been so empowering because I learned my decision-making process is to take time. Clarity comes with time. And that was so helpful for setting those boundaries, even with my husband, who makes decisions best in the moment. Totally. Yeah, exactly. I think that's so helpful, Michelle. And like, you know, even if you don't know what that is, like, you can just say that to someone. You can be like, actually, you know what? My personality type does way better making decisions with a little more time. So I'm going to take that. Like, you can just totally say that, right? Like, that is a boundary, you know, like the boundary is, I need more decisions on what boundary feels good to me here, but you can totally say that. You're so welcome, Amanda. Thank you so much for being here. So basically, this is the best thing you can do for yourself. This is the best thing you can do for your clients. Whole other context is it's the best thing you can do for your business because it's how you don't burn out. We won't go down that rabbit hole today here too, but just a little reminder of that too. Like, the fastest way to burn out in your business is flex your boundaries all the time. You know, it's like literally the number one way to just feel super crappy and like out of control in your business and really burnt out and all of those things. So this is definitely going to serve you. It's definitely going to serve your clients, but just remembering that like, you're not going to be able to force them to feel a certain way. Like, you can over deliver until the cows come home, and if they want to be mad, they're going to be mad, kind of thing. Hold your boundaries, because that is where you're going to feel in integrity with yourself. That is where you're going to feel the most empowered in your business, and that is where you're going to see those results build. Like, every time I've held a boundary that has felt good to me, I've seen that positively impact my business. And every time I have flexed on one without actually wanting to flex on it, I have seen that come back to bite me in the butt. Like that client I was telling you all about earlier, where it's like, flex on all these boundaries because I thought that would make her happy, and then still not happy. Like, right? It's so good to see that. So hope this is just a little reminder for y'all. Definitely check out the podcast episode because that is coming out real soon. And I really, really appreciate you guys being here. Yeah. Michelle says boundaries and money mindset are two things that need to be taught in school. I mean, really. Really, really, really. It's so true. So I hope you guys have a beautiful Monday. So sorry for our tech glitch earlier. I love you all, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.